Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We are excited for you to be with us today for this session titled Social Media Do's and Don'ts, How to Build Trust, Not Just Followers, as a part of Wimlar's Next Level Realtor Member Success webinar series. Today's topic could not be more timely. In a digital first world, I don't know how to read today. Simply having a social media presence isn't enough. How you show up, what you say, and how you engage all play a critical role in building trust and ultimately winning business. This session is designed to help you move beyond just posting content and start using social media as a true relationship building and business development tool. As we all know, we are in the relationship building business, so how perfect is this, right? Before we get started, just a quick reminder, while this session does not offer any continuing education credit to the CE Marketplace, the value you'll gain from today's insights can have a direct impact on your business, so be sure to take lots of notes so that you can put those notes into action immediately following this presentation. Now it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Lorenzo Johnson. Lorenzo is a partner at Socially In, one of the nation's premier social media agencies focused exclusively on social media strategy. With a strong background in digital marketing, executive leadership, and sales coaching, he specializes in helping professionals create content that not only engages, but converts. His approach goes beyond likes and followers, focusing on building meaningful connections that lead to real results. Please join me in welcoming Lorenzo.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I am very, very, very excited to be here today. I wanted to share a quick video that I think will introduce my agency, and then we'll jump into the fun stuff. But can everyone see my screen?
We are Socially In, the social media agency. We live, breathe, and sometimes even dream in content. We're not just on social media, we lead social media. From emerging trends to proven data-driven strategies, we position our clients ahead of the curve and ahead of their competition. Every visual, every narrative, every detail, intentionally designed to capture attention, spark meaningful engagement, and drive measurable outcomes. The best ideas happen where strategy meets creativity. And that's where we create content that doesn't just work, it sells. We specialize in cultivating long-lasting relationships between your brand and the people who matter most. Because impressions fade, likes don't last, but building community, that's where your brand becomes unforgettable. With Socially In, your brand doesn't just have a voice, it has impact. Are you in?
That is just a fun little video that introduces our agency a little bit better than the words that I could use, but as Andrea alluded to, my name is Lorenzo Johnson. I'm one of the partners here at Socially In. We are one of the country's only full-service social media agencies. All we do is focus exclusively on is the social media. We do social media management, influencer management, and then content production. Before we start to dive into here, Andrea gave me a lot of good background and some things, but we have a little bit of a smaller group here. Before I just start talking at you all about things that I think are important, would love to hear, is there anything that you all would specifically like to get out of today's call, that you all would find this next, 30 minutes or so valuable? We will have a Q&A session at the very end of this, but before I even dive into it, we'd love to hear what can we actually talk about today in this next 30 minutes where you guys can walk away and say, this was something really valuable. Would anybody mind sharing anything?
I'm looking to grow my followers and see how you can get more engaging content or what works to engage people with your social media accounts.
Like what to actually post?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I would love if you, and you may already be covering this in your presentation, but I would love to hear what are the best ways to post advertising, what we're doing, real estate, sharing listings, like there's parameters legally of what we can do as agents, but what is the best way to do that safely without putting ourselves in hot water with having to, in the E&O, airs and emissions place of violating things or privacy, how to do that safely and effectively, I guess, is the best way.
That's really good. Yes, ma'am. Anything else?
I would just jump in and say with 1,200 members and about 50 some thousand in the state, I think a lot of our members are trying to differentiate themselves from each other online. So how do you be your authentic self? How do you stand out from everyone else in the marketplace?
That's a big one. Anything else, you all? This is all great. The good thing is so far we're going to cover all of these things so far. So looks like we're all aligned. Anything else? Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. Along with the items that you all just mentioned, there's a few other things that I want to make sure we cover today. And it's why trust matters more than visibility. We are going to talk about why it is important to have your name, your face, as you can imagine out there. But again, there's a trust aspect that, as you all know, that's just going to be critical. What to post, what to avoid posting. There's always those what you should do. There's also some things that I would argue are critical things that you should probably kind of stay away from. Again, it's so funny. We're speaking the same language. Why authentic content matters. There are tens of thousands of you all out there. Again, how can we start to differentiate those different things? We are going to get a little bit technical today, and we're going to get into what's called profile optimization. Again, making sure that the foundation of your profile is at a place that builds that credibility that I'm sure you all would like to achieve. And then again, engagement and outreach, what you all should be doing in a proactive manner. So as we go through this, if you all have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I can't necessarily see screens and things like that. So Andrew, if you don't mind, if anyone raises their hands or if anyone has a question, also feel free to just take yourself off of mute and just jump in and just dive into it.
Sure thing.
So as I was doing some research into this, I was doing a little bit of looking into the new 2025 profile of home buyers that the NAR put out. I'm sure it's probably reminders for most of you on this call, but I took away a few key things that I think are important for this conversation in particular. And what I mean by that is that I think some of these things are good to have in the back of your mind when we're talking about what are we posting? Who are we posting for? One thing I want to make very clear. Everyone on this call has their own market. They have their own focus. They have their own niche. So again, I am going to get a little bit general in some of this, but there's always room for the nuances that make you all as individuals. But there's some things that I found interesting in these stats. The first big one is that for the first time, the median age of buying a first-time home was up to 40. This age also made up only about 20%, 21% of the market first-time home buyers, which is according to the NAR is an all-time low, actually. FHA and VA loan usage is actually down to about 28%. Around its high was around 28 or 2008, where we were looking at about a 55% usage. All cash buyers are at an all-time high. Last year, about 26% of all buyers were all cash. We're looking at a higher down payments. A lot of us are used to that 10% number. Last year, it was actually upwards of about 19% on average for a down payment. Some positive things. About 80% of all buyers used an agent, and about 91% of sellers used an agent. And for sale by owners are actually at an all-time low. So I share all of this information. Again, some is going to be reminders. Maybe you didn't know some of those different things, but it's good perspective when we're thinking about who are the folks that are who are buying and what's this market actually telling us. Trust matters more than followers. Again, repeating what you all already know, people are making what's probably going to be, for most folks, the largest financial purchase that they're going to make in their life. If you're going to guide them in that, there's just an aspect of trust that you have to have. Visibility gets the attention. Again, I'm not saying ignore that aspect. You have to be aware. You have to get your name out there. But trust is what's going to get people to actually say, hey, would love for you to kind of be my agent. A few of those small things that I think distinguish those two. From a visibility standpoint, that's where we're looking to create that awareness, increases the reach. It does start to help people notice you. But trust is the thing that creates that confidence. It builds that connection. It leads to those conversations. And again, as you all know, in this relationship building business, Those are the things that are very, very important. So why trust matters. Followers do not automatically become clients. I think that's something that we want to talk about. I think it was Chris, I believe, who asked the question in the beginning about getting more followers. Of course, you want to get more followers because you're going to get more eyes, but it doesn't automatically mean that they're going to become your clients. It does start to help that awareness, though, and that's one of the things that's very important for that. Let's start to get into the how. Let's start to get into a little bit about the what you all should be doing. The first thing is social media should be used to build a professional and credible online presence. It should be a part of all of the other things that you're doing. It should not be the only thing that you're doing. When folks are looking for you, when folks are researching you, social media should just be one angle that they're actually able to see what your presence is going to be. But it is an awesome place to start to build up that professional presence. It is one of those things that can help you stay top of mind. If you are consistently posting, one of the things we're not going to get into too much is how algorithms work onto this page, but the simple answer is the more you post, the more Facebook, the more Instagram, the more TikTok will want to show you. That's just the simple. It does not matter what you post. We don't even need to get into that. Well, we are going to get into that on this call, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day, you guys. Facebook and algorithms, they care about consistency over the quality aspect. Again, they care about the consistency over the quality. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't you just disregard quality, but more important, the more that you can do, the better that it will be. So I always just tell people, if you get an opportunity, post, 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 post. It doesn't matter what it is. But again, we will dive into some strategic ways that you should be doing. Educating prospects. That's one of the most beautiful things that you could be using social media for. Again, useful content. It's always great to show all of the clients that you've just got that just purchased their new homes and things like that. But how are you educating people throughout that process? If I am a first-time home buyer, can I actually go to your profile and actually get information that I find valuable? Are you actually being a resource to me? Are you actually pointing me in the direction of other resources that I may need as a first-time home buyer? Are you showing that you have relationships and partnerships with some other areas that are going to be critical for this? So again, educating people is going to be a very big use of how you guys should be using social media. And then showing that personality. As I stated in the beginning, some of the stuff we're going to talk about is going to be a little bit more general, but it doesn't mean that you can't be unique in your approach. You can't be authentic in your approach. Don't be afraid to show your personality. People buy personality. People truly do buy personality. So social media is one of the few places where you can truly be your authentic self. And that's the awesome part about doing it. You don't have to make and fake it. Who you are is what you can start to show. Again, it's going to be a great way to increase those opportunities for engagement, for outreach, and supporting those relationship building. And this isn't just relationships with clients, with prospects, but these are some of those other folks that are in those industry adjacent, those professional parkers, those circle of influence folks that I know that you guys talk about, that you're always sharing your leads with, your mortgage partners, a lot of those different folks and things like that. This is also a great way that you can stay in touch with them, that you continue to build that relationship. Because as you all know, if I'm going to be one of those partners that's referring traffic and referring clients over to you and things like that, I want to know, are you up to date with the latest trends? Are you up to date with the latest policies? All of those different things. Are you being a resource? And social media is one way that you all can consistently do that. I did want to get into very specific things, or what are some things that you can be posting if we wanted to try to go and build up that credibility? In general, strong content should do 4 things in this space, in my opinion. It should educate, it should inform, it should reassure, and it should connect. Again, it should educate folks, it should inform individuals, it should reassure people, and then it should connect with them. When you're thinking through your content and when it does all of those things, you're really headed in a good place. So what are some very specific things that you all can be posting? Local market updates, home buying and home selling tips, FAQs and frequently asked questions. You know, I focused a lot on new buyers in this first part of our conversation, but what if this is my second home? What if I already have a home that's under a FHA loan, but I want to go and buy another one? Are you letting people know that they may not be eligible to do that or what it may require to do that? Are you getting into that type of nitty gritty detail when you're talking about social media? And then a question I'd all ask you guys is, do you even know who you all are even posting for? You know, are you all aware who your ideal target audience is? Because based upon that answer, that's also going to help guide a lot of this conversation right here. Some really good localized tips is neighborhood or community insights. I'm sure a lot of you are very involved in local communities, schools, a lot of different things like that. It's important to not only share that, but it's important to also let people know that you live in the communities that you're also selling into. I know that I found that very important when I moved back up to Michigan. I'm originally from here. We moved back up into the Kentwood area about a year ago. One of the things that I looked for in our agent that we found was someone that would actually live preferably close to the area. I didn't want someone coming from outside telling me all of those things. I wanted someone who lived and who frequented that area. Everyone doesn't care about that, but that was particularly important to me. Of course, have you done this for folks that look like me before? Have you done this for folks that are in my financial position before? Those type of client success stories, those things always help reassure and help connect. What we call internally BTS, or behind the scenes content, is something that algorithms and people on social media absolutely love. The nitty gritty, the behind the scenes type of stuff that people don't typically get to see in that real estate process. That's the stuff sometimes that actually gets the most views. It's not always the super fun drone views and going through the house type of tours and things like that. Sometimes it's the stuff that people are always wondering, what happens when my real estate agent leaves and they have that conversation with the LO? What are some of those things that are going on? That behind the scenes content is very valuable. And when we're talking about engagement, things that stop the scroll on social media, that's the type of content that makes people really want to lean into it. Educational posts that simplify the process. That's a really big thing. It's not education for the sake of education, but it's taking a world that you all live in every single day into a space that I may only live in one time in my entire life, potentially. How can you simplify that process for someone like me? And then again, content that reflects expertise, real experience. Again, depending on your market, maybe you like to work with flippers. You know, we have all types of different niches and things like that. There's always, always, always space to be what we call your authentic self. There are some things that I would argue should also try to avoid posting. Things like self-promotion. And here's what we mean by kind of self-promotion. But people want to see what you've done for others. They don't necessarily care to necessarily see you. And there's a small but a very important distinction for that. Content that feels just too sales heavy. People get on Instagram and TikTok to scroll, to be mindless at the end of the day. If they want, the beautiful thing about platforms like TikTok and things like that, or social media in general, is that when done properly, people will buy. It doesn't have to be this over sales heavy type of content. So it's very important to kind of keep that in mind. Generic content, no relevance, posting, and things like that. I typically try to say avoid it. But at the same time, if you're going to ask me, should I post something rather than nothing? My answer is always post something rather than nothing. But again, if we can have some strategy behind it, of course, that's always going to be a little bit more ideal. We should try to have your branding and your messaging be consistent. One of the things, again, that we talk about is this level of professionalism. If you were to be selecting your real estate agent and you were going to check out some of the stuff they were doing and it looked a little all over the place, things seemed very consistent, you weren't quite sure what agency they were with and some of those different things, you may say it's not that they're bad. You may just be able to think that you could find someone better. And I always like to talk about in this space right here, it's unfortunately, it's always a relative conversation. It's never an absolute, did you do something wrong or did you not? It's always going to be compared to another real estate agent that they have a potential to go with. So the being consistent really can help to show your level of professionalism. Listings without context. A lot of times I follow real estate agents and things like that, and it's a ton of listings, but really not much detail, not much context, and different things like that. People don't necessarily like that because it doesn't provide them anything but an image that they can like and keep scrolling. We like to do what we call create participatory content. All that simply means is, how can we create content that makes people want to comment, share with someone else, tag a friend or two? That's the type of things that we're looking for. Of course, content that lacks authenticity, again, no matter how goofy or out there or weird or any of those things that you may be, authentic content will always hit better than content that just isn't you. Also, to be frank, it's easier to make authentic content than it is to make content that doesn't really fit who you are as an individual. And again, if possible, we always try to avoid posting just to stay active without any strategy. But again, continue to post. At the end of the day, one of the things that I always like to remind folks is that this sales process is going to be one time that someone could potentially have, and you can't always predict that. So it's always important to just be posting consistently, following this plan, doing what we call a good mix of your content, because you never know what stage of the process that your person that's going to see your social media post is. So it's always great to have enough content that whether I'm starting from scratch, whether this is my second or my third home, whether I'm an all cash buyer, again, taking into account your own individual niche, it's always important to continue to post those things because you never know what space I'm in when I step in and I'm ready to start to engage with you. We've talked about authentic content and why does it matter? For a few different reasons. First off, it really builds that familiarity that we're looking for. Again, people, one of the best things that happens in this type of situation is when someone sees you on social and then they meet you in real life, and they say there's no different. You're exactly like they thought you were going to be. That's awesome. That's that familiarity that you're looking to accomplish. Authentic content also just feels more relatable. It's easy for you also to attract the buyers that you want. You're more likely to attract people who think how you are, work how you are, value what you value, more comfortable engaging with you because again, it's that authentic content and that's what you're looking to connect. So it also is important to attract the right type of buyer also. It makes your expertise more approachable. Again, if you have a niche, if you have a space that you like to live in, that's an awesome place to start to build a social media following for. People who are experts in one thing just come off as being more valuable sometimes than people who seem to be, as they say, jack of all trades, know a little bit about a lot type of situation. The biggest thing, again, consistency, consistency, consistency. Trust strengthens over time. Just like in any relationship that you have, professional or personal, trust wasn't built with that first interaction. It took multiple trusting interactions. And so that's important. Social's the same thing. There's never going to be one post that you can do that all of a sudden does all these things. Now, again, you can go viral and lucky. I'm not talking about all of that. But the idea is that it's a series and the consistency of your posting that really starts to drive that traffic eventually. Few examples of some really authentic content. Personal insights from working in the space, lessons learned from working with clients. That's an awesome one. That's something that when we were actually buying our home, it's something that I found valuable on social media. To be able to see questions that I literally, and I had a home at the time. So it's not like I was even new to the process, but it had been some time. It was great reminders for some things in the process that I didn't ask about, questions that I didn't even necessarily consider. It was very helpful. Same thing with real client experiences. If you have issues or nuances or things that were maybe difficult to get by, again, those are really great opportunities to talk about and showcase your flexibility. Honest answers to common questions, and by honest answers, I mean like the real. Not the Google Chat GPT that you could just kind of Google copy and paste type of things, but meeting people where they are in their education level and their income level, all of those different things. Community involvement. There's nothing more authentic than that. Again, as you know, people want to buy from folks who live and who spend in areas that are close to them. So showcasing that how you are involved in the local communities that you're selling into, Even if you don't live there, I still think it's important to be involved in those communities. I just think that really gives off a certain feel of authenticity on social media. Um, Mistakes, common mistakes, buyers and sellers, it's always important to be keeping both sides in mind. And then, of course, again, personality, that type of content that reflects that. You're always looking for those opportunities to be yourself. And the big reminder is that people connect with people before they connect with brands. And that's something that I always share, not even necessarily in the real estate space, but I do think it's hyper important in a space like yours. People connect with people first before they ever start to get into all of the other things that we're talking about here. I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about your optimizing your profile. That's a big thing. I oftentimes do go to real estate agents' profiles, and this is across all types of social platforms. And it just doesn't look like it was set up to be used for business, to be frank. It's your first impression. It's your digital brick and mortar, as they like to say. It's the first time that people are going to interact with you. So you need to make sure that it looks and speaks how you want it to speak. This is something that I don't think that it's a bad thing, because you can buy verified profiles now for relatively cheap. I think Instagram at one point was like $9 a month or things like that. Those are things that I recommend. It's worth it. It's not about having a ton of followers. It's any of those small things that can increase your level of professionalism versus somebody else. I always encourage you to do things like that. And of course, you can write that type of stuff off, so it never hurts. A few things as far as what should be on that profile. Very, very simple. Who are you? What do you do? Who do you help? Where do you work? How can someone contact you? Basic 5 things. Again, I don't even see those a lot of times. And then from a checklist thing, some things you need to make sure that you have. You need to have a professional photo or a photo that reflects your personality. I always like to add that in there. Reflects your personality. Be thinking if somebody was going to buy a 500,000-600,000 home and they didn't necessarily have a warm referral, that's the type of image that you really want to make sure that you're giving off. Needs to have a clear bio and clear statement, location, market info, specialties, niches. All of those things are important right off the top. Again, if I happen to be looking for an expert in the space, you should tell me right out the gate, you are the expert in the space that I'm looking for. And again, if we're talking about being hyper professional, that consistent branding is key. And how do we make sure that we turn this engagement into some positive connection? Because just because people discover you, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to actually engage in the content. So the idea is that once you post, and if you take some of these steps, you will get the likes, the comments, the shares, and things like that. But on your end, there are things that you absolutely need to be doing. All comments need to be responded to. Preferably, all comments need to be responded to in the first hour. Just so you all know, algorithmically, that is the best time to respond to comments. Also, just so you know, I know sometimes people find it weird when people like comment on their own things and stuff like that. At this time, algorithms don't necessarily care about all of that type of stuff. It is just comments. You just need comments. So if anybody ever replies or any comments, you need to respond ASAP. Instagram specifically, if you do not respond to people who comment on your post, Instagram will do what they call suppression, and they will basically start to show your stuff less and less. Instagram is one platform that's very particular about making sure that you respond. And if you do respond, their algorithm does reward you well. Answer questions in captions, stories. Again, so many times I see people who are getting good engagement. People are asking buying sign questions and things, and they're just not getting a response. Ensure that you respond to those things, because why would people in the future want to comment on your post if you're not actually responding to people who are actually asking? Engaging with local businesses and community members. Whenever you get a chance to engage on social with those passion projects and things like that, it's a really good way to use their social visibility to your professional advantage. People who interact consistently with you, what is your plan to take them off platform, or just warm leads in general? What is your plan to take it from a social media conversation to an impactful next step conversation? You need to have a plan of action of what that looks like, whether it's taken into a direct message, whether it's taken into a text or a phone call, maybe it's going to grab coffee. Whatever your personal flow is, you still need to have a plan of when the conversation gets to a meaningful place, how do you shift it into a place where you can actually start to do something with it? As we're starting to wrap up, again, the whole idea of everything we're talking about, as I said, outreach and what we call social selling overall is something that needs to really be intentional. And it's about building relationships. It is not about if I go out and post 4 or 5 times, I should be able to have my phone ringing off the hook type of situation. It is about I'm posting and I'm using social media as a means to have a relationship with current and future prospects. Just that simple. That's why we always want it to be what we call leading with value, not a pitch. What's the value that you provide? Again, it's repeated interaction. It's not, a flash in the pan one time and then okay, it's so awesome for right now. It's that repeated interaction, those repeated value touch points. Again, that's how you're starting to build that trust. Overall on social, one of the biggest things that you can take away is that your focus on social should be long-term opportunities, not this immediate, if I post in the next 45 days and I don't get anything, well, I don't know why I'm posting or what, this was all just a waste of time. If that's your purpose, I can tell you social media is not for you from an organic standpoint. We're not talking about paid and some of those things and stuff like that. Again, it's for long-term relationship building. It's for starting conversation. It's for building that rapport. It's for staying valuable, creating trust. It's not for hard selling and spamming and random pitching. Oops, so sorry. Trust and consistency. At the end of the day, like we've been talking about, that is what matters way more than follower count is going to. Trust is that thing that influences whether someone actually reaches out to you or not. Consistency is the thing that keeps you as an agent top of mind. As you all know, there are so many agents that hop in and that hop out of market. It's important to know that, it's important to be, I've been around for a decade. I've been consistent. I've been doing those different types of things. People want to know, are you here now or are you an agent that just got into the market type of recently and things like that? Those are things that matter. Relationships lead to referrals and repeat business. As you all know, the best business comes from word of mouth and referrals and from people who are repeat business. It is just that simple. But this is a way to continue to build up and to continue to strengthen those relationships and keep in touch. Again, we're not talking about, I agree that you should have email and some of those other things, but social is a great way to keep in touch with those things. Now, followers are one metric that does help you decide, is my content doing what I think that it should? And if you're not seeing growth in net followers, it is maybe a conversation to say, should I step back? Should there be strategic adjustments that we could be making and things like that? But again, followers are just one metric. What you really care about is that engagement rate that you're actually getting for whatever follower count that you have. And a few common mistakes that I've really seen just across the board over the past 15 years in the real estate space is treating social media kind of like this billboard. This just kind of like I'm always throwing something out there and hoping that it sticks. Posting only when they have something to sell. Again, one of the things I hope you take away about this is that it's about posting consistently the value, not just when you need something from folks. People start to very clearly start to be aware of that. Your feed starts to look like that. When people start to actually scroll down and say, hey, let me kind of see what this person is about. They start to get this feeling that, oh, they're only engaging on social from this, and that's not what I'm here for. So you don't want to only post when you have something to sell. That overusing of the listing content, it is great to have. Of course, you need to start to have it. But again, how can you make it authentic and personal? That's the big thing. No profile setup. Again, expecting social media to drive this awesome engagement, but you don't even have the foundation set up. Lack of engagement, prioritizing the appearance over the value. Again, it needs to look right. And I want to do all of those different things. It's are you providing value? You'll figure out the look. You'll get better at that. As you do it more, you'll get better at that. And then again, being inconsistent in those, not just tone and message, but also the posting habits in general. As we're wrapping up, a few key takeaways. Then definitely want to spend the last 10 minutes or so with questions, but you want to build trust, not just visibility. We want to make sure that we post content that educates, informs, reassures, and connects. Avoid that promotional or too generic content when you can. Show up consistently, show up authentically, consistent and authentic. Optimize your profile, and then, of course, engage meaningfully to really ensure that you're starting to build up those real relationships. Next steps, review your profile, you guys. Start to really improve that content mix. Post some educational content, show some of that authenticity, engage intentionally, and of course, make sure that you're following up naturally. Wanted to save a little bit of time for questions. So first off, I hope that that was valuable for everyone today, and I really appreciate everyone taking the time. Yeah, we'd love to spend, I think we have 8 or so minutes before you all have to get going. Any questions or anything that I can dive in a little bit deeper before we pop off?
Yeah. So I get a lot of stuff from Facebook as far as uh, I'll put out ads and then I get all these notices that my account's going to go bad and, you know, um, people are spamming me all the time with, like if they want you to pay a fee for Facebook to get a blue ribbon or something to show like authenticity and all that kind of stuff. But it seems like you get a lot of junk. Is there any way to keep from getting that kind of stuff without, because you want to have your contact out there, but you don't want to have everybody sending you all this side junk?
Yeah, the junk part unfortunately can't be stopped. There's some filtering aspects, and Robert, I'll make sure Andrea gets my contact information, so that if you and I want to set up a call, we can look specifically into your account. There's some filtering that you can do where it'll make it easier for you not to have to see it and engage with it, but the actual receiving of it, unfortunately, that will be limited as far as your control from there. But there are some things you can do to filter it, so at least you don't have to go through and deal with it on an essentially. Does that make sense, Robert? You're on mute, but I think you said yes.
Yeah.
So am I.
So
Okay.
sometimes they'll have like you can says that there's like a representative from Facebook. I haven't called them yet. I don't know if that would make any
Now,
difference.
I would say this: I'm very happy you mentioned that. Be very careful on emails that you get like that and things that say that. There are a lot of that is spam. We get a lot of inquiries from people who say, hey, Facebook told me they were going to shut down my account, or Facebook told me that I was spending all of this money and I don't have anything. Spams are getting very complicated and things like that. And one popular spam or a scam that is going around is like a templated message that looks like it's coming from like a Meta ad manager in Facebook. But if you ever check it, there'll be like small inconsistent spellings, or the email it come from will still come from like a Google, even though it says like a Meta account and things like that. So be very careful, you guys, about clicking into that stuff, calling, giving, some things they'll say, we need access to your account to verify certain things and stuff like that. 9 times out of 10, that stuff is spam and a scam. And so be very careful about responding, clicking links, doing that type of stuff. Facebook doesn't typically reach out to do that thing, just being very honest with you. Facebook is actually notoriously hard to get a hold of and get in touch of. So I would actually, if Facebook actually reached out to you, I would already be a little bit wonky but wary about that, because it's very hard to get a hold of them. We pay a decent amount of money to have access to that. That was a long answer. I apologize, but I do think it was important. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay. Joni, I think I saw your hand up, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Sorry if I said your name. Is that how you say your name, ma'am?
You are absolutely correct.
Perfect.
Will you please touch on what you can put real estate wise on your personal page? And does everything you post that's real estate related have to be on your real estate business page, etc.?
So this is an interesting question. And It's interesting because Facebook has slightly changed where you used to actually only be able to have one personal page per name. So like if Joni Bowman or Lorenzo Johnson tried to make another Facebook page, you couldn't. Facebook would, and if you did, Facebook would find it and break it down. That is no longer the case. You can actually have multiple pages now. So you can actually have a personal page and you can have a real estate specific page. There's pros and cons to that. The simple version is having two pages is more work. It's just that simple. The cons is, or I'm sorry, the pros is that it does allow you to separate and segment your content. You don't have to worry about the stuff that you're posting on your personal versus the stuff that you kind of post on your professional page and things like that. I personally find it a little bit easier to engage with real estate agents that post it on their personal page because I don't personally want to follow a bunch of real estate professional pages because once I'm out of market, I'm no longer in the market for the home. So I found it a little bit easier to stay engaged with them because I won't delete their personal page once we've connected. I'll stay connected to that. I am much more likely to unfollow your business page once I get out of that market because I don't need those updates anymore. And I feel like that's what the purpose of that page is for. So there's a little bit of kind of pros and cons in how you want to approach it. But as a individual, I typically prefer to engage with just like a personal page and they also post on their real estate. I don't get offended or I don't feel weird because they talk about their family in one post and then they talk about their real estate properties in another post. But that's my
Okay, but my question specifically is that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I would much rather post on my personal page. Andrea, do you agree with that?
I do agree with that, with the caveat that variety is king. You know,
Right, but I'm
if you're
saying, is it okay? Is it legal to be a realtor and post real estate stuff on your personal page?
absolutely, policy is silent on that. As long
Okay,
as you're following other Michigan advertising laws and NAR's trademark laws,
sure.
you're golden on that. Yep, for
Okay,
sure.
okay. Thank
Just
you.
don't sell
Yes,
on them
ma'am.
all the time because they'll keep you on red.
Just don't what?
Just don't sell to them. Just don't be real estate every single post
Oh, no, no,
because
no,
they'll
no,
start to
no,
ignore
no.
you. But yeah,
Yes, I
otherwise,
understand.
policy is silent.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
I don't think I saw any other hands raised, but did anybody else have any other questions or anything before we popped off?
Well, and I did want to just touch on that real quick, Lorenzo.
Yes, ma'am.
On Monday, we have uh, another webinar coming up. But if you are a broker on this call, make sure that you're plugging into the broker town hall at the end of the month. We will be having Becky Burke from Michigan Realtors speaking on Delara's advertising laws, as well as supposed to have somebody from NAR coming to speak on realtor trademark rules. I do expect with the number of complaints that we've been getting here at the office that we're going to start really looking into that and diving into compliance on both of those issues. So definitely start watching your Monday memo or your Tuesday memo rather, paying attention to our Facebook group. We're going to start to see some, I expect we're going to start to see some changes coming down the pipe. Yep. All right, super. Lorenzo, thank you so much. Thank you for
You're very
being
welcome.
here.
Thank
I
you for
did
having
not
me. I
realize
hope
that
you
you
all
were
found that
local.
valuable.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, friends? All right, super. Well,
Appreciate your time, everyone.
absolutely. Thank you for being here. Thank you for
Thank you.
being a part of this webinar, and we will see you all soon.